So lately, conservatives have begun embracing solar in droves.
Yeah.
We've watched it, Newt Gingrich, Kellyanne Conway, Katie Miller. We've watched a couple of different people come on and sort of start to spout the benefits of solar, which we love to see.
Yep.
Heather Reams, our guest this week, has been doing it her whole career.
Yeah.
So she's with the Citizens for Responsible Energy Solutions and has been communicating about clean energy and all of the above approach to specifically conservative lawmakers for her whole career, and it was really exciting to talk to her a little bit about what she's seeing, what's changed in the last few years, and why now we are seeing this sort of wave of conservative support and support for solar and clean energy.
Yeah, and it was an encouraging conversation because I think, as you said, there seems to be kind of this surge in these conversations happening in conservative places and on sort of both sides of the aisle in Washington and around the country. And I think what she pointed to is that's really just sort of the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the reality on the ground, that these are issues that actually are having far more positive impacts in red places in the country than sort of, urban areas or blue states or whatever you might want to call it. And so like the work that her organization has done over many, many years, I think in some ways has laid the groundwork for a lot of what we're seeing here. And they've been such a crucial partner for SIA over the years. And I think, she pointed to obviously all of the sort of hot button issues, affordability, being able to build things quickly and sort of revitalize the American economy, reshoring manufacturing. These are all principles and ideals that, Republicans at any level want to really push for. And we as sort of the broader clean energy community have answers for all of those issues. And so I think she does a great job of kind of connecting the dots and helping people see all of that. But I think it sort of makes me feel like we're only seeing the very beginning of it.
Yeah. I think it was last year, 2/3 of new solar was installed in states that Trump won in the 2024 election.
Yeah.
So I think she does a great job of breaking down why that is and why it is leading to a sea change among lawmakers on the issue of clean energy.
Yeah. So we'll hear from her about some sort of topics of the day this year in Congress, but also just sort of broader trends and where we might go from here. Heather, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate the time. Why don't we just get started by you introducing yourself and your organization, and we'll go from there.
Sure. I'm Heather Reams. I am the president and CEO of Citizens for Responsible Energy Solutions, also known as CRESS. So we are a right-of-center organization that engages Republicans on the benefits of expanding and accelerating clean energy because it's great for the economy, it's great for the environment, and it's great for our energy needs, our growing energy needs. So we're based here in Washington, D.C., and we mostly focus on federal policy. We'll touch some state policy here and there, but mostly federal.
When you think about your organization's work, trying to sort of, again, build that right of center and bipartisan support for these issues, what is that feeling like in 2026? What are some of the issues that feel top of mind? Obviously, things like affordability are everyone is talking about these types of things, but I'd just love to hear from your vantage point sort of where you think the conversation is when it comes to sort of the right of center voices on clean energy topics.
Well, thinking about 2026 and how people are feeling about it, I think is probably how we're feeling about it too. Energy is needed desperately. And that's not a red or blue issue. That's a red, white, and blue issue, right? And how we're going to provide that energy as a country. And then what do we do as industries and advocates to make sure it happens? I mean, it's complicated, right? But then maybe it's not that complicated at the same time, right? If you think about it. But there's a lot of work to do. So I think with affordability becoming front and center for so many voters, gas prices going up, continuing to fuel that concern about affordability and uncertainty ahead, I think that the idea of having every electron on the grid, thinking about building and expanding our energy sources makes a lot of sense. I think it's up to us, again, as advocates, to connect the dots for consumers about what policy, how it affects everyday life. Because sometimes it feels like that happens in Washington or that happens in a state capital, and it doesn't really affect me. It does.
Yeah. And I think one of the challenges we have is that, the electricity system is really sort of thousands of systems that are all sort of interacting with one another and regulated by different groups and bodies at the state level and the federal level. So it is hard to, like, as you said, kind of draw that connection between a decision that we can make at a federal policy or a state policy level and a direct result that people might feel on their utility bill or in their sort of lived experience. And I do think you're right that we have to, as sort of advocates and those who are making these claims and these messages, have to really be able to connect that for people.
And it takes a while. I mean, you connect the dots, but also it takes a while for those dots to finally connect.
Yeah.
So we patiently wait for that process to go through.
Right.
I think affectionately known as sausage making,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then we're having to go, okay, this is what just happened, and you've just lived through this very long phase of how we're getting there. And at the same time, people are wondering, like, hey, the pain for me is now, and the policy also can take some time. So I think right now, policymakers are under a tremendous amount of stress and pressure to get something done. And as you know, we're in an election year. So I think we're going to, what's going to happen at our state and federal levels? I think there's a fair amount of uncertainty, but I think we all know something needs to be done.
Yeah, and especially on the affordability issue. But I'm also curious, like in your conversations throughout the day, what other issues around energy are coming up? Of course, I mean the affordability. We obviously, solar, the cheapest to get online, the fastest to get online. But what are the sort of other core issues for lawmakers or partners that you're frequently having conversations about? Is it reliability? Is it national security? So what are the other layers that you're typically advocating for?
That's a great point. I mean, I think affordability is huge. National security is certainly rising because of the conflict with Iran, and then compounding that with the conflict with Ukraine and Russia, and the U.S.'s role in that, and then some other instabilities, whether it's Venezuela or others. People there's a lot going on in the world. So I think national security is creeping up there as a concern or a drain, maybe, or what is it doing? Are policymakers focusing on the right thing? But I think it still comes down to affordability. Remember that it's the economy, stupid, right? The Colin administration and when he was running, I think that stands true. People do. These are Main Street issues about costs, and I think one of the great pieces about solar, when you think about that affordability and the policy that goes along with it, it takes a while to build stuff in this country. And, it's for a lot of it's for our safety, but the quickest thing that can get online right now is solar. And I've always thought about solar with its hand up going, like, we're here ready to roll. And it's almost like a life ring for the economy and for people who need the energy. And with tremendous growth of data centers, but it's not just data centers. It is reindustrializing America, the advanced manufacturing, things that require a ton of energy. There's where solar can help level out the grid, contribute to what we need to have our country move forward, and maybe happen a lot faster, right, than that sausage making, policy making.
Speed to power. So you talked a little bit in your sort of opening statement about the red, white, and blue nature of these issues, and the interesting thing is that seems to be really borne out in polling data. There's been a lot of polling over the years about the tremendous support on both sides of the aisle from a sort of citizen standpoint for clean energy and solar in particular. Even like a lot of recent polling from folks like Kellyanne Conway on sort of the support nationwide for these issues. I wonder sort of how you compare that sort of body of polling and the sort of sentiment of the broader public with the sort of positions and the sort of where the majority of lawmakers at the federal level or even the state level might be, and sort of how we can continue to sort of demonstrate the grassroots support for this work and translate that into sort of policy success.
I've always admired Kellyanne Conway because she really does have a good pulse on where citizens are, voters are. She's kind of with the people, and has done that in her work. And I've been in and around her work for a couple decades now, so I'm quite familiar with it. And I think I really appreciate what she came out with, which is very populist kind of feeling. Like a lot of people like solar for different reasons, right? And they're familiar with it for different reasons. And it's on your rooftop, or they've seen it, and they drive by a solar array, or they've heard about it because the technology's been around a long time, whatever that is. And it's no surprise that people are saying, solar is great. I'm around it. I know it. I understand it. I approve of it, right? But also it's where it's expanding. I mean, solar is in a lot of red states. And with populations that move through it, this isn't necessarily maybe an urban area issue, a blue area. It's really like a red issue area where you're likely to see solar. So I think she's like struck a really powerful chord here in her polling and her findings of like, yeah, people like this. And that's been very valuable as advocates. As we're an advocate on the right of center of bringing that to Republicans, just saying like, here's a trusted advisor of the president who is saying this. And someone who's got a long track record of really having really good polling. And pollsters have been wrong plenty of times before. I'm sure she has too. But in this case, I think she's really onto something. It's also like very consistent with polling Cress has had over the years about the support for solar. It's always ranked some of the highest of all the energy sources. Again, there's probably different reasons for that. But I think it's something to build on. If you're trying to get the political will and the community support, I think you've already got it with solar.
Yeah. I appreciate what you pointed out about sort of the diversity of reasons for support, because that's something that I think we sometimes miss, that, that there could be a lot of different sort of backgrounds that people come to this from, whether it's like, energy independence with panels on their rooftop, or it's, supporting local communities if they are aware of a project at a school nearby, or they, might have become aware of it from some other, news story about, a manufacturing renaissance. So there's just like a lot of entry points to it that I think we can take for granted as, being so inside of the industry as we are. But
yeah, I think, I've been, this anecdotally, how people are learning about solar in their communities, if they're involved with their church, trying to lower costs, bringing solar into the mix and energy efficiency with that. Yeah. And they're like, oh, I haven't done that in my home yet, but here we are as volunteers at a church doing this. Or then like, maybe I should do this with my home. I hadn't thought about that. Or in my neighborhood, a number of neighbors deciding to get solar, that's now got lots of other neighbors getting solar, right? Like, how'd you do that? I don't know where to start or begin or call or trust or whatever that is. And then, that makes sense for my family. I want to do that. Or I've got the right roof pitch or whatever they think they have to have. They get educated about what they need. And solar is so accessible. No one's going to have a nuclear facility, and they're a private ownership, right? But they certainly could do that with solar.
Yeah. And that's another angle or sort of a piece of the puzzle there with the just energy independence, but ownership, and it's like freedom over how you make decisions about your own electricity. That's one of the other groups that I find always interesting is like preppers, folks that are wanting to be entirely off grid. Is like, well, solar is the only way I can make my own energy because I don't have a nuclear reactor. So, that's the best. That's
probably a good. Well, I'll just say that my husband likes preparedness, and so the solar conversations, while I don't have them on my roof yet, boy, they are strong in my household.
Well, good to hear.
So I'm curious about sort of we've seen, as Colin pointed out, a couple of polls recently. Kellyanne Conway had one, Tony Fabrizio had one about a couple of like sort of Trump supporters, standing strongly sort of with solar. I'm curious, why now? I think we saw this with Katie Miller and Newt Gingrich even kind of coming out more recently saying, I support solar. I think this should be a part of the all of the above approach. Do you think that's sort of something that's novel now, or do you think it's always kind of been simmering under the surface and now it's sort of poking through a little bit more?
Yeah, first I think maybe both are true at the same time, right? Maybe that it's always been there, but my guess is, those are very informed people who understand that electricity and power and demand and affordability are massive issues. Maybe I would see them as creating space for the president and for the administration to make some pivots is how I see it. Giving some cover, if you will. And, and that's great that they can do that and be others that can talk on the record. I think it's something that, when and if the administration is going to be stronger on solar, permitting more solar, we should all rejoice, right? Good. Coming around and understanding the realities of limited supply and of course the timeline in which solar can be deployed. And that is not every energy source can say that, right?
Right.
And so I think that's part of a piece of it. I'm not privy to why,
Yeah.
but I do think that there seems to be something. I wouldn't be surprised if we had additional announcements, more siting on federal lands or other pieces that are going to get us there.
Yeah. Well, since you touched on it, I feel like we'd be remiss without talking at least briefly about permitting reform. It seems like things are on uncertain waters when it comes to congressional action there. But I wonder if you could just speak a little bit about, over the course of, the first several months of this year and in conversations you've had with folks in your organization and partners that you work with, what got us to where we are, which seems is progress. I think there's been a lot more discussion on both sides of the aisle about sort of reforming our permitting process for energy in the United States. And given that we are at somewhat of an uncertain point here, where we might go from here.
Permitting reform. We love to love permitting reform, don't we? So, this is another one of those. Everyone knows we need it, and how are we going to get there? It's going to be some grand bargain, I think, that none of us really understand how we're going to get there, but we're all willing to make the deal, And I think that's the powerful part, that I've never seen alignment in Washington for having permitting reform passed.
Yeah.
We've seen some good bills passed in the House, some good discussions in the Senate. But as the clock ticks towards midterm elections, when there's recess, I wonder if we'll be able to get it across the finish line. And if that means it's a lame duck play, that's solely based on the elections and what that looks like. So there's the political outlook, not the rosiest, but we all know we need it. The why is actually, I think more compelling in talking about energy demand and what we need right now. We can't be legislating based on crises. And that seems to be kind of the way we're moving. Like, oh my gosh, we need something now. Quick, legislate and do something. And then no one reads the bill and everyone complains about it and then points fingers. And really, this is a bipartisan moment. And it can be a bipartisan moment if we had our Congress and administration working together. Because maybe there's a skinny bill. They call them skinny bills, smaller bills that could pass as well that would give those developers some relief to be able to build to keep up with the demand that we need. But at the end of the day, we're coming to a reckoning here if we don't do something about it. And we mean the policymakers and the advocates that are saying we got to do something. But again, I've never seen Washington so aligned on the need to do something, but not acting as fast as they should.
So I'm curious now how that plays out for the rest of the year. So maybe we get a permitting reform done, maybe we get it in a lame duck, but sort of assuming we don't, how do you think that affects how candidates talk about energy come November? In this election, what does that look like for candidates? What does that look like for you? As you go about?
I think if you're a candidate and saying I want to reduce government red tape, who's against that? I've never seen anyone rallying for bring on more red tape. So I think it's a safe place to go. And then it's part of the affordability conversation. The faster we build and streamline the permitting process, the cost will come down to build. And that actually shows up in your wallets at the end of the day. Again, a longer term play, but certainly something that that policymakers and candidates can talk about. So I think they're definitely going to talk about it. But talk's cheap, guys. We know that, right? And then we want to see some action. So if we don't see it before the election, and I think that's a really good chance we don't see something, then my next pitch is for a skinny bill that would happen in lame duck. And that would be based on the political realities of what November brings us.
Well, anything else on the midterms that you're thinking about it, where you think the conversation is heading on energy? How big of a role do you think it's going to play in these campaigns? It's already seems like it, even in some of the, the off-year elections last year, it was a big topic. So I'm just curious sort of how you think we're heading for a lively October and November, I'm sure.
Well, energy, we are the cool kids, right? So if your parents ever wondered what you did for a living, they understand it now, right? So I feel like we're kind of ground zero on a lot of, but we're people understanding, more and more people understanding that energy is the backbone of America, right? And having energy giving us the ability to be an amazing country, right? And the different kinds of energy. As a colleague of mine says, what a privilege to have so many kinds of energy and being able to pick which ones you want and which ones you don't, right?
Sure.
Not most countries can't say that, right? And so I think about like, wow, we have an amazing opportunity before us, this kind of big bang moment in technology. And we've got to get it right? We've got to be globally competitive. The U.S. needs to lead. AI is a scary thing, but it's also a massive opportunity as well. So how are we going to tackle this? And energy is every part of that. Where that energy comes from, how quickly we get it, how reliable it is, how affordable it is. It seems like it's on the tip of everyone's tongues right now. So I feel like it's a massive piece of the conversation. And quite honestly, I'm glad it is.
Yeah.
While I feel like I'm in the hot seat sometimes and talking about energy, I also feel like good. People are understanding how this really impacts our economy. When policymakers are in those committees and saying I'm on the Energy and Commerce Committee, maybe people will say, wow, really?
You've got power. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And not just the people inside the Beltway know that.
Yeah.
So I think it's taking a tremendous role. As you know, a lot of times people were talking about renewable energy as part of like an environmental reason. And that hasn't changed. It's still part of an environmental reason. But the economic reasons are so big.
Yeah.
So big right now that we can't afford to take our foot off the accelerator. We need to keep moving forward.
Yeah, and I think it speaks to what you said about kind of the big tent of all the reasons that people might be supportive of these kinds of policies, like whether it's about climate change, land stewardship, energy independence, all pocketbook issues. Like there's room in this tent for everybody. So I think we just
that's actually one of the things that draws me to continuing to advocate for an all the above is like meet people where they are, meet geographies, people where they are, what they want. If the sun doesn't shine much in your state, well, that's okay. Yeah. There are other kinds of resources you can use, and being part of the fabric of America that's powering America, I know it's kind of an honor to be part of that.
Yeah.
And I think if more people really could articulate the importance of like I like it all. I like American homegrown energy.
Yeah.
And if you've got it in your state, use it.
Yeah. That was actually really going to be my next question. It was okay, like candidate Reams, how would you answer the question of like if somebody asked you why do you choose an all of the above approach? What's your typical answer to a question like that?
It really is. I mean, I went to school in the Pacific Northwest and at the University of Washington, and it wasn't a very sunny place most of the year, right? But there was a whole lot of hydro there. Water was a massive piece, and nuclear. It's very, very big there. And you just kind of like, that's great. It was very different where I grew up in Virginia Beach, Virginia, which now is building the largest wind turbines off the coast, right? And has a lot of solar in Virginia and going down to North Carolina on vacations and seeing more and more solar and still seeing it. So you kind of get used to like, there's not a lot of hydro here, although there's a lot of water for different reasons, and that's okay. So it's just kind of respecting the regionality of the why, and I think that is where members of Congress can kind of respect that as well. It's sunny in Arizona, it's windy in Iowa, and so but together this forms a really cool quilt of what we need for the fabric of America to move forward. So that's kind of like where it is. And I think it's just respecting regionality. Having been to all 50 states in America,
okay.
I can tell you that they're all very different. And they're proud of their differences. And, why deny them what they have?
Right? Absolutely. Well, you got my vote.
Yeah, great answer. Great answer.
Right, I got two right here, maybe. Great.
Fabulous. Anything else that you want to touch on, or any sort of parting words for our listeners?
Well, keep on fighting the good fight, I'd say. I know it's been a bumpy couple of years, and wondering where renewable energy stands and then all the above, and being part of that. And I think that I always give it a little bit of time, and to see cooler heads prevail, common sense prevail, whatever it is. I think we're seeing like, well, we have massive demand here. We have massive opportunity. We're a capitalist society. There is money to be made in solving big problems too. So let's let the capitalist system work. Let's build faster, and let's encourage our members of Congress to streamline America. I guess one more thing it's worth noting is that the business uncertainty we were talking about is can hurt our capital markets, the investments, capital sitting on the sidelines, or worse, capital moving to other countries and not being invested in the United States. And to me, I think that is more of a long-term threat to America than anything.
Yeah.
Doing business abroad there's nothing wrong with that. But if it's an either or and it's not coming to America, that's a bummer. No, is good. I like ands. And sure, go share the wealth.
Yeah.
But not coming to America because of the uncertainty that's here is a problem. I think that it may be a small thread in what's going on as well, is we need to smooth out our regulatory policy. So that businesses know that they can build, investors know they can invest, and that America is still a great place to do business. I mean, I think that is a piece that I'm hearing over and over again. And I think a lot of our lawmakers are very receptive to that and want to make a difference there.
Well, that sounds like a good plan to me.
Okay. I'll get started right away.
We're working on it. Well, thank you so much, Heather. We really appreciate your time and obviously your ongoing partnership. We've been thrilled to collaborate with you over the years and excited to keep it going.
It's great to collaborate. It's great to be with you here. And I hope you have me back sometime soon.
Oh, I'm sure.
Very soon.
Thanks so much.
Take care.